Hi everyone, in this video I'm going to talk you through the final exam assignment. This exam is worth 25% of the course grade and is due before midnight on December 14th. So what this assignment is a rationale document, in other words, a statement of purpose for teaching. And the purpose of a rationale is to have an ever-evolving document or just a vision that grounds your purposes for teaching in an easily accessible format. After a teacher ed program, most teachers just have the ideas in their head about what their rationale is. But in these courses, you're going to be asked to document in writing about your purposes or visions for teaching. And these help you because they provide defense for you in instructional decision making. If you're trying to support claims for what you're doing in your classroom, you're going to need to ground that into purposes for teaching, which is your rationale. So let us talk through this assignment. Now, the course goals are largely reflected in this assignment. In particular, it's the final course goal of articulating clear, defensible rationales for curricular and instructional decision making. But you're also going to be asked to construct an identity as a professional educator. Now, this assignment asks you to pull all of your learning from this course and apply it into this final exam. You can use anything you've created in class to complete the assignment. Primary and secondary readings, course meetings, activities and discussions, handouts, critical summaries you've written, lesson plans you've created for class, experiences you've had in the school this semester. Now, you can use assignments from other classes, context, readings you've had in other courses. You can pull those into your assignment, but you are not allowed to plagiarize, even self-plagiarize yourself from other assignments. So that means you cannot copy and paste sections from a critical summary from this class or from an assignment you did for another class. It has to be original work. So what is the question you're answering in this final exam? The question is, what are you teaching social studies for, and how might you accomplish this goal? And in reality, this is two separate questions. What are you teaching social studies for? And then the question of how might you accomplish this goal. The first question of what you're teaching for is the big picture purpose for teaching social studies. It's the theories that drive your teaching. It's what you want your kids to be long term, like when they grow up or when they leave your class. What it is not are the instructional strategies and activities you are doing in your class that will help you achieve that goal. Those things are addressed with the second question. How might you accomplish this goal? Now, those two questions get played out in this final exam in terms of how I've sectioned out into 4 unique sections. So you have an introduction to the paper, which should be about a half page in length, a section on your overarching goals, so you have about 2 pages to write about your purpose, 2 pages to write about your how you will achieve those goals. So it's a strategy section, and I'll talk a little more about each one of those in a little bit. And finally, you have a conclusion section, which is a half page. And notice if you add those 4 sections up, that gives you the minimum page length for the assignment, which is 5 pages total. Now, questions that you might consider to help you construct your paper include, what do you want students to take away from your classroom beyond content knowledge? What might your classroom environment and student learning look like if someone visited your class? And how might social studies serve as the integrating core of your curriculum rather than just a subject placed on the back burner? That first question is very important to contemplate because that's really what the final exam question asks. What are you teaching social studies for asks you, what are you doing beyond just rote memorization or rote learning, content knowledge in your classroom? Why are you making social studies matter for your students? What are experiences or values, beliefs that they are gaining in your class that they are going to enact and value in the rest of their lives? So, for instance, in a rationale, you might say that you value democratic citizenship, and then you explain what that means in those 2 pages. You define the idea of citizenship. You may round it out by giving a few links. So, for instance, to me, democratic citizenship means notions of engagement with others, aspects of an ability to critique knowledge or ideas presented to you. Things like that. Those are not specific strategies, but those are ideas that provide definition or boundaries to what you mean by teaching for democratic citizenship. Now, when we get into that second question of what are some of the ways in which you might achieve that goal, so again, if you tackle the question of democratic citizenship, you could say, well, I want my kids to discuss. So there's discussion as a strategy. Then you'd be working with others, so therefore I need to make sure I have an appropriate classroom community, which would be a strategy in the classroom. I want my students to take action in society or in their classroom, their school. Therefore, there may be aspects of service learning or action-oriented curriculum, such as the C3 framework. Now, the strategies you highlight, there are 3 exemplars of what you might do in your classroom on a regular basis. So you just need to choose 3. There's no, not everything you write about are the things that you only do in your class. So you're not only going to do discussion in your class. There's nothing wrong with direct instruction, but direct instruction will be a hallmark of your rationale. It is the other more specific strategies you're going to write about in this paper that reflect that. Now, you also don't want to get too deep into writing about those strategies. So when you say discussion may be a strategy for teaching democratic citizenship, you're not going to say, I'm going to do think, pair, shares, and that is your strategy. That's far too specific. What you want to do is write about the broad concept of the strategy and then provide examples. So, for instance, I may say discussion is one of my 3 strategies for teaching democratic citizenship. Knowing that my students in elementary grades probably have little experience in engaging in discussion, I'm going to use a variety of introductory strategy tools or strategies such as think, pair, share, line of contention, concept mapping, affinity mapping, chalk talk or chalk discussion, things like that. But those are just examples of discussion. What you have to do is write about why you value and use discussion in the classroom. So, in your paper, which again should be 5 pages minimum, you should have a clear introduction that sets the tone, 2 sections that individually address the overarching goal and how you will accomplish that goal, and a conclusion that appropriately concludes the paper. Other requirements for the assignment include the 5-page minimum for undergrad students. If you're a grad student, the requirement is 6 pages in length, that it is Times New Roman font, 12-point font, double spacing with no excess spacing between paragraphs. And many students have their paragraph function in Word set to a default, which provides extra spacing between paragraphs. To change that, you need to go to the paragraph tool. Let me zoom out real quick. In this section, so you'll notice right here, many students have their papers set like this, 6-point or 12-point spacing between paragraphs. That's incorrect and should be set at 0. You can also set that as your default, so you never have to worry about it again. So in addition to being 5 pages minimum, or 6 pages if you're a grad student, Times New Roman, 12-point font, double spacing with no excess spacing, it also requires that you have 1-inch margins. Please do not set it at 1.25 margins or anything different from 1-inch margins. I can easily see when it's submitted if it meets the margin requirements or not. Also use APA 6th edition style. The best tool for that is the OWL Purdue website. It will provide you with insights into how to do stylistic engagement in the APA format. But I also provide the template document that provides examples as well. And if you're worried about how to write references, the course syllabus has all of the readings in class structured in APA format and even indented in the reference section. You also have to have 4 independent references or unique references. Now, references are the main course text, such as Parker, or any secondary reading in class, or articles, book chapters, books you've read in other classes. Now, there is a requirement for the use of references, so it has to be peer-reviewed. So all the articles you're reading in this class are peer-reviewed. The book you've read is peer-reviewed. It's a textbook. What is not peer-reviewed are things like, and I've had students use this, like dictionary.com, or do a general Google search for an instructional strategy and use the first website that pops up, or even a university website that just provides information about strategy, or a teacher's blog site, news website with a news story. None of those count as references for the assignment. You can use them, but they won't count. So you have to make sure you have 4 references in your final paper. And when I say reference, that either means you have an actual quote and include the reference, or the citation, or that you are just citing a text that talks about the idea. So there's 2 different ways to cite work. One is through direct quotation, the other one is through paraphrasing ideas and providing acknowledgement about who has written about the idea that you are sharing. So the rubric, you'll note due dates for the drafts, and I'm going to be changing the due date for the first 2, because I'm late in getting this video posted. So the brainstorm will be due on Thursday, the 26th, and the rationale outline will be due on November 2nd. You'll note the draft rubric covers 5 points, so the brainstorm you're going to be doing is worth 1 point out of the 5 draft points. The outline is worth another point. Peer review is worth 1 point, and the rough draft, the final one that you do and submit to me for review, is worth 2 out of the 5. The other 20 points are divided among a number of sections that get reviewed for the final exam itself. So 3 points go to the clearly focused introduction. So you have a statement that is clearly, an introduction statement is clearly stated, sets the tone for the remainder of the paper, and provides an overview of what you're going to write about. With that, you may end with a topic sentence such as, in this paper, I will write about my purpose for teaching social studies, which is, and then you write out what that is, and which is supported by these 3 instructional strategies, and you identify what those 3 are. The best papers provide that clear identification. You have a well-supported purpose, so you write about 2 pages or even more where you identify your purpose and address it in a comprehensive, clearly stated, and manageable manner. You're making connections to larger ideas, again, not practices or specific examples of what goes on in the classroom. You're providing definitional clarity about what your purpose for teaching social studies is, and you're making connections to literature. Do not give me a couple of sentences or a paragraph. It needs to be a full 2 pages in length to get the 4 points for this part of the assignment. The next part is also worth 4 points, which is the achievement of the purpose, which is the 3 strategies. So you identify 3 or more ways in which you achieve the stated purpose, and that you address them in full. So each strategy you identify, you need to first identify what the strategy is, define it, make connections to any of the literature that you're citing for it, and then and also connect the strategy to the purpose for social studies, because those 2 things need to connect. Then you also might provide some examples from your potential classroom of how the strategy would be implemented. Finally, you will conclude with well-formulated conclusions that you're synthesizing all of that information and bringing your paper to a close. That's worth 3 points. You'll also get graded on whether or not you use APA correctly and have a reference list. That's worth 2 points. Your writing, so the paper is clearly written with few mistakes. And then finally, the formatting is correct. You meet all the formatting requirements, page minimum, that you're using Times New Roman, 12-point font, double spacing, 1-inch margins. You will get full credit for formatting, which is 2 points. If you miss, if you don't do one of those things, that automatically gives you a 1 out of the 2. Right. If you have any questions, you can post them in a discussion board, and or bring them up in class. I look forward to seeing the work you spent for the assignment. Thank you.